This is Vampyr. We're on Xbox Series X, taking a look at this interesting narrative and choice-driven title. This is from Don't Nod. I'm actually quite a fan of their games, and I thought, hey, you know what? Now's the time to take a look at this game and talk a bit about what it has to offer, because I think it's a really cool experience. So what we're getting here is something that's just slightly above the original version. It was Xbox One X enhanced, but I believe it was something like 1080p. It's just like maybe slightly above that resolution-wise. 30 FPS, Auto HDR support. So this is actually a title that would be a very good candidate for getting like an FPS boost or something like that down the road. I think that would do a lot for this one. So what is this game? It takes place in London, 1918. You are a newly turned vampire. I don't know if we can actually get out of here or not. I think this is like endgame type content. There shouldn't be anything too spoilerish, I don't believe, as we're kind of walking around just showing this off. But anyways, you are a newly turned vampire named Jonathan Reid. As a doctor, you must find a cure to save the city's flu-ravaged citizens. As a vampire, you are cursed to feed on the very people you put an oath in to protect. And yeah, it kind of dives into the moral questions of, kind of being a vampire and dealing with the problems of, hey, now I gotta feast on people, even though, I was kind of supposed to save those folks. And that's kind of funny. So, will you embrace your abilities, get more crazy types of, different things going on? I'm a level 50, so it's got some RPG mechanics to it as you increase your skills, and, your feeding kind of improves your abilities and the tools you have. You get different weapons. So this is like a later act in the game. This is basically like the end epilogue sort of scenario. And it's just kind of like a lovely little spot that shows you a bit about like the visual style of it. I think it's got a really neat aesthetic to it. And then on top of that, there is the mainland area, which is like this Victorian era kind of city that you're moving through and looking at things. It's quite interesting. So you have all of these abilities. I don't know if we can actually get through there and back to the boat. But you have all these unique abilities that make you kind of a menace in that, as well as, hey, you kind of got to go about your day to day and come up with ways to sort of deal with this situation, this plague that is, coming across the land. You got to deal with it, and I think it has a neat balance of, sort of discovery, RPG mechanics, and gameplay. I think it's actually quite an enjoyable time, and something I had a lot of fun playing. It's not necessarily a perfect experience, but it is one that I found rather rewarding and unique, and again, very like atmospheric and interestingly well designed. It's definitely a very different sort of title. Oh, did we come in on this sort of thing? I think I'm gonna have to try to pick an earlier save or something like that, so we're gonna just swap over to that. So this is a much earlier portion of the game. We're back in the hospital. I think this is Act 1. I kind of worked through this game quite fast since I was reviewing it, but there is quite a bit that you can do and you can experience. See, you're right here in this hospital scenario. And this is basically where you do your work and where you discover things. So what's really interesting about this game is not only the sense of you going around figuring things out and exploring, but you also have a direct impact on the actual experience. So you can go around and you can kind of get the details of the different people that are out there, and you can choose whether or not you feed on them. And with you feeding on people, it actually will change how the game kind of goes, if that makes sense. Like basically you will break down elements of the environment. The more you feed, the more you interact, the more you kind of destroy the city, as to say. You directly have an impact on that experience. And it kind of fits into the whole don't nod element of, hey, these are how our worlds are kind of driven by player choice and chat and discovery. And there's like side missions and there's different things you can do along the way. I just thought this was a very neat game. And I always would have liked to have this sort of continued or there to be more to it. Because I really thought this had, more potential even past this initial release. I just thought there was a lot to this. It's kind of fun just being this intense, vampire and going around doing stuff like this. I always thought that was really neat. And I was kind of wondering, am I at an earlier point of the game, but yet I have my level 50? Is that what's happening right now? Because I think that's kind of intriguing. Because I'm not necessarily sure if this had any sort of... I don't believe it actually had New Game Plus or anything, but you can kind of go back. And you could play in different ways, too. It was a game that was not necessarily, just about playing it in one way. You could go and you can do different routes. And just the feeding really changes how powerful you become. The type of vampire character you become. And I thought that was just really interesting. And I like the characters and the story. I just thought it was a very intriguing world that they painted a picture of here. You might find a boss or two as you go around exploring as well. There's lots of little kind of things to come across as you're working through this story. And I just think it had a really nice set of like ambience and style to it. It's something that's like decently long gameplay wise. At the same time, it doesn't go on forever, which is kind of neat. But you can kind of go around and you can explore and you can see different things and you can solve different elements of like what's going on. The loading, it could be a little bit faster, but it's not too bad in this one. It is a little bit more sped up on the Series X. But yeah, you could kind of see as we enter this thing, it's like kind of figuring out, okay, what happened? Solving some clues. A little bit of detective work, too, as you deal with some of the, individuals that are going on and seeing what's going on in this world. The door won't open from the side. What will we do? And it's just kind of a very intriguing game, at least to me. I really did like what this had to offer. I liked what they designed here. And I always thought it was neat, kind of going in here and seeing one of their more action-type oriented games. So they have done other things, such as Remember Me, which is a game that I really wish we still had, access to be able to play that one still. I would have really liked that, because I thought that was a pretty cool action game about time and all that. Because Don't Nod loves their story-driven things where the choice, and they also love playing around with time a bit. And I just think, it could have been... this universe could have been expanded upon, was my biggest thing. And I don't know if we're going to get that. I don't know if it's necessarily considered like a huge success or not. I really have no idea. But I kind of always thought that people should maybe give this one a chance. You might find it intriguing. It might be a cool little, type of RPG experience for you to work through. Obviously here we've actually got decent performance and stuff going on. I do think this is one, again, like I mentioned prior, FPS boost would be really quite good for this. I think it would add a lot to the ambience of the world, because I do think it looks pretty good. I mean, obviously it's not hyper sharp to the degree that I'd like it to be, but I still think it looks really good. It blends in well. The environments have a lot of detail to them. There's a lot going on here. And it's just kind of neat having these different cinematic moments and being like, will you embrace the monster within? Are you going to survive and fight against the vampire hunters, the undead skals, the other supernatural creatures? Use your unholy powers to manipulate and delve into the lives of those around you? You kind of make these choices, and it's like, you do these discussional things. You can chat with people. Do we actually have any other dialogue choices? Because you can kind of go around and you can interact with the different people in the town, or you can like feed on them, or you can cause all these problems, and you kind of have your character, wrestling with these decisions. And not really good blood quality. And you can just kind of like mess with people. You can do different things. You have these powers, and you're using them to solve what's going on. And you really feel like quite a powerful, being by the end of everything. Like, you really feel like you've done a lot in this. You feel like you've really left your mark on the town, whether that's in a good way or a vampiric way. And you feel those struggles, and you find it kind of intriguing. At least I found it really interesting. And like I said, I like these types of games. It's a little bit niche. It's a little bit different. But it's something, cool to play. It's something where it's like not similar to other stuff you'll have played. It's a very different sort of RPG. It's unique. And it's, I like vampire type games. It could be a lot of fun. I like story driven things. I like games of choice. And this one, really hits the mark on offering a lot of different styles of gameplay and different ways to experience what this has to offer. And that's my biggest thing is, kind of showing this off here, because potentially this could be something that you find maybe intriguing and to be a small little experience that you can go off and play. And it's not small. There actually is like a good amount of gameplay to this. You'll level up, you'll fight these characters, you'll work through the story. I hope you'll have a good time with it is the biggest thing. Because like I said, this is one that I've really found to be quite an exciting experience, something very different. And the crafting mechanics too are kind of cool. And I from the moment I kind of saw this one, I was very intrigued. Like, I saw this early at an E3 presentation, and the thing that they were basically pushing was this is a game where when you go around in the environment, your choices are impacting the type of world that you are seeing, and they're leaving these long-term effects on everything that's going on here. And I just think that's really, really cool to see, these changes, and I think it sort of hit the heights that they were going for in that regard. You do see a place that does change based on who you kind of impact and the adjustments you make to the experience. It's really different, and we're kind of in a area of the town where things aren't really. I kind of want to eat up a rat because I think that'd be funny. But we're in an area of town where things have kind of gone really bad. This is like a rougher part of town, and you've obviously got these vampire hunters, and you're kind of just in the middle of it all. And there's some like boss type characters you have to deal with. There's some other surprises. I mean, there's a lot out there in the night for you to come across. There's going to be a lot of different creatures and things you're going to have to take care of. It's not an easygoing task, but also as, a previous person, you have to deal with this balance of, things are a lot different for me now. They were this way, and now I have to deal with the element of, hey, I'm basically munching on folks, and that's sort of my life now. How do I deal with this? How do I change things? Can we not get in there? I'm just trying to think of, from a perspective of having played very, like, all the way through the game and towards the end there, just kind of thinking of what areas are available to me right now as this character, and I'm kind of, like, just trying to think of what level of my character's at. Is he just dead? I don't know if I can actually eat that guy or not. What's going on here? Language. But yeah, like I was saying, it's kind of intriguing, and I mean, it's like a cool character, and you deal with these moral questions and stuff along the way. It's a very different sort of game. Hello there. And you make these choices and you talk with these people. So you're a doctor, but you're also a vampire. Now, what are the odds I found that note there? There is no freedom when you're going to get eaten by a vampire. Oh. Just kidding. That felt pretty weird, right? It's like you were mesmerized. Oh, I see your beating heart. You're fatigued, but I want to feed on you. Everyone's feeling tired these days. I will give you medicine. I don't have medicine to give. Should we try mesmerizing him again? I don't think we're supposed to feed on the middle of the streets. It might look bad. But mostly what I've been trying to say is it's kind of a cool game. It's very different. It's something that I think stands out a lot from other options that are out there. And if you've maybe skipped it or never seen it before, you might actually find this one to be something exciting to play, something different to play, something that will capture your attention for a good amount of time. And I think it just offers quite a bit of gameplay, and it's something that was decent. Now, it's not perfect in every way, obviously. I went back and checked out my review score, too, and I gave it a good mark, score-wise, like a decent one. So it's not necessarily a perfect thing, but it is something that I think a lot of people would find to be enjoyable and something easygoing for play, and at the same time, something intriguing enough where I'm like, I would really like to see this followed up upon. Or maybe someday down the road, if I have some more time, I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, I want to go and I want to do like a danger playthrough where I'm just like eating everyone. Or maybe I want to try to do a run through where I don't eat everyone. Or, there's different choices you make. That's what I've been saying. There's different impacts. See, the district will soon suffer the consequences of my actions. I bet they will. You bet I am. Ooh. Can I not mesmerize this lady? Oh, that's funny. I want to mesmerize her, but I can't. Anyways, that's Vampyr. It's pretty cool. I hope I got that across, and I hope I showed off a bit of the gameplay so you could see what it has to offer. Just like a bit of a taste. It's much more dynamic even than what I've presented. At least I think so.